All right, so we are joined by a number of folks available for questions. Director of DNR, Dan Gibbs, Director of Emergency Management, Kevin Klein, Colorado National Guard, Department of Public Safety Director, Stan Hilke, Division of Fire Prevention Control, Mike Morgan, Colorado State Forest Director, Matt McCombs. We have representatives from the state fire chiefs and from the sheriffs, representatives from the U.S. Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, and the new U.S. Wildland Fire Service. Our host, Commissioner Dahlkemper, is with us as well. This really shows the broad array of folks that it takes to plan for and deal with fires. Federal partners, local partners like sheriffs and fire chiefs, the state, all working together to reduce risk and then deal with the inevitable fires. We are facing increased risk this coming year for June and July, significantly increased risk in the Front Range in western Colorado. There is significant drought conditions which have caused a much higher fire risk for June and July in the Front Range of western Colorado in particular. And we're seeing action already. This past weekend, I declared a disaster emergency for the Poitras Canyon fire in Los Animas County. A few weeks ago, I declared a disaster emergency for the Swakim fire in also Los Animas County, hard hit so far this year. The increased fire risk extends to a multi-state region. Utah in particular sharing the same elevated fire risk as us, New Mexico and Arizona as well, particularly in June. And of course, I'd also highlight that many fires are near or go across state borders too. So we are in close contact with our partners in other states as we address these matters. Looking back on, this will be my final preparedness briefing and forecast as governor, and kind of looking back, I'm very impressed with how far we've come. When I became governor, the state aircraft assets only included leased multi-mission aircraft. We now have owned multi-mission aircraft. We have single-engine air tankers. We have leased large air tankers. We own Type 1 and Type 2 helicopters for rapid response, multiple engines, multiple hand crews, and more intelligence, both satellite-based and aerial-based than ever before. So while the risks have increased, our preparedness has grown exponentially. I'm very proud that we've been able to accomplish that over the last 8 years. And of course, we never read about the fires we hit early and contain and don't become horrific disasters that cause significant loss of life or property. But we're always up against dry conditions. We're always up against the threat of wind to spread fires. And while we're more ready than ever before for whatever might be thrown at us, we know that there's elevated risk of major events for this coming summer. Our swift coordinated response is the result of years of investment. Our partners in the legislature, federal funds that were used for this work. Last month we activated the Colorado Drought Task Force because 97% of our state is in moderate or severe or worse drought. And as you recall, in my time as governor, we have seen the 3 largest wildfires in the history of our state in the summer of 2020. And then, of course, the most destructive fire in the history of the state, just a few miles from here, the Marshall Fire, over 1,000 homes. And we need to prepare for the increased risk really caused by several factors. Climate change, we're experiencing drought, and of course demographics, increased population and people living in the wildland-urban interface that together have led to increased risks. Our local law enforcement partners are doing what they can to reduce risk. Many of them are looking at periodic episodes of fire bans or firework bans where appropriate. I would also add, of course, that there are natural causes of fires like lightning. With some of that forecasted, we're particularly worried about that. But everything from vehicles to fireworks to dispersed shooting, we've experienced fires to utility lines. We've experienced the risk of fires from all of these sources and more that are human caused, and we want to be particularly vigilant. And I encourage the residents of our state to be particularly vigilant. Even if, for instance, campfires are allowed, make sure to extinguish. Do it in a pit. Do it properly. Again, if fireworks are allowed in your area, be careful, do it properly, monitor, make sure the fireworks that you use are not prohibited fireworks in the state of Colorado for fire reasons. And if you are engaged in dispersed shooting in an area where it's legal, again, be careful. And of course, if you smoke, make sure that you dispose of cigarettes safely. So each Coloradan needs to step up and take responsibility in addition to the many entities that are focused on this. We also have really stepped up our activities on reducing fire risk around homes and communities, mitigation, clearing homes and communities for fuel of fires. We are taking a comprehensive approach to doing that. We have more resources than ever before with Conservation Corps, Youth Services Corps, local fire districts that have stepped up in this regard. And we want to make sure that both homeowners and communities are aware of all the help that they can access for community level and of course home level mitigation. Another matter of responsibility at the individual level for your home and collective responsibility at the community level, working with fire districts and counties, municipalities to create defensible perimeters around areas that people live where property and lives are at stake. I am proclaiming May as Wildfire Awareness Month, and I want to make sure every Coloradan is vigilant this year. The state is doing what we can and stepping up, and we're more ready than ever before. Learning from the Marshall Fire, I want Coloradans, of course, to make sure you work with your insurance agent on your insurance coverage as well. Sometimes they have suggestions about fire risk reduction as well. But by staying vigilant and informed, we can best prepare for, prevent, and respond to fires. With that, I will introduce the Executive Director of the Department of Public Safety, Stan Hilke, who's our next speaker. Stan?
Thank you, Governor. Good morning, everybody. You heard from the Governor, and we heard today in a briefing that we're going to be facing a challenging fire season this year, and we know that's coming. We've already had a challenging fire season, and actually using the term fire season doesn't make sense anymore. It's a fire year. We're about 117 days into 2026, and we've already dropped over, or just about 200,000 gallons of product out of the aircraft that are either owned or contracted by the Division of Fire Prevention and Control. We have spent the last decade building through the department and the Division of Fire Prevention and Control the capability in preparing for what is this scenario today. We have determined to try to take Colorado's fate back into its hands and having the ability to control our destiny a little bit with the addition of resources, fire aviation resources, human resources, fire engines, and our partnerships with locals. And that is all possible made due to the Governor's leadership and the support from the General Assembly and the people of Colorado to be able to do that. We know that during a challenging fire season across the western United States, we're going to be competing for resources. And the ability to have and own and contract our own resources and be able to bolster our human resources in the state of Colorado gives us some comfort level. Make no mistake, though, we detect, I think in 2025, nearly 180 fires that were detected proactively and became, kept from becoming big fires. But there will still be big fires, and we will continue to try to make sure that we do that efficiently and effectively as possible. The information or the resources that I talked about, particularly in aviation, we're using a lot as well. I want to make sure everybody understands that, those resources are getting a lot of muscle memory. In 2025, they flew about 830 missions between rotary wing and fixed wing aircraft. They dropped over 1 million gallons of product on the state of Colorado in fire missions, flew about 1,400 hours, and have done a great job. And I will direct your attention to the people that are usually in the back of the room at these kinds of things. They're the ones who do this work, and they're the ones that really we owe our thanks to, because they're the ones that actually execute the policy and the practices that we work so hard to give them. I want to make sure that I also shout out to our partners. Today we had a great briefing. One of the terms, it's not my term, but it was used in there, is that we're trying our best to make sure there's no daylight between us, that we're in lockstep with our federal partners, our state partners, our local partners. All fires start at a local level, and the first line of defense is usually our volunteer and paid firefighters, and they do such a great job at protecting the homes and the people in their communities. And we exist in the Division of Fire Prevention and Control in the Department of Public Safety to serve them and to support them with resources. We want to make sure that everybody understands as well is that there are parts of the state that are considered to be highest danger or biggest challenge, but I want to make sure that everybody understands that that means that the other parts of the state that are not on that map are also in a drought area and they're also at risk as well. We do have and participate in a national structure for combating wildfires through a good interagency system involving state, local, and federal agencies, and we know that we can't do it without them. We're prepared for our fire season. We're going to have a challenging season, and I will say that we have gotten a lot of benefit value out of the new scheme that we have developed over the last decade of investing in fires with initial aggressive attack and also detection. We believe that spending money on initial aggressive attack and detection is a better bang for the buck for the state of Colorado and the citizens of Colorado than wait until fires get big and then having to try to figure out how to manage them from there. With these efforts, we can reduce wildfire risk. We can't control the weather, but we can control our readiness, and that's what we're prepared to do. Public safety is not achieved in a vacuum. We have to continue to do this with our partners. And as much as I talk about our local partners with local volunteer and paid firefighters, our other state partners and our federal partners, one thing that I want to emphasize as well is that the public is the biggest partner in this. The prevention, doing the things that the governor talked about with taking great care about the activities that you engage in outside. We love Colorado for our outdoor activities and encourage everybody to enjoy Colorado for everything that it is, but also to be safe. If you're using a chainsaw in the wilderness or any of those kinds of things, or driving your vehicle, a warm vehicle in tall grass, these are the kinds of things that cause fires, documented fires. Even people who enjoy shooting sports, we have several documented fires that have become significant fires just because of target practice and the like in areas that are really not designed to do that. We want to make sure everybody also starts thinking a little bit more like a firefighter. When your trampoline in a windstorm blows up and goes into the power lines and causes a spark that causes a fire, that's not something you typically think about. We want you to start thinking about that as well. We will continue to do our part, and we hope that the citizens of Colorado will also take responsibility for everything that they can do to keep this from happening. So far in 2026, as I said before, we've had an active year already. That's only 117 days. We've more than 54 days have been committed by our aircraft on fires, and again, I've already dropped a couple 100,000 gallons of product on fires around the state. We've had 2 active state responsibility fires so far, and we know that there will be more throughout the summer. Our motto in the Department of Public Safety is safer together. We truly believe that the only way we can stay safe and to continue to contribute to the safety of Colorado is to stand together and let no daylight grow between us. So with that, I'm going to close and just say thank you all for being here. And again, I do want to say to the people that are in the back of the room, we're grateful for everything that you do, and we're grateful for our local volunteer and paid firefighters who are really the first line of defense. And we exist to support you, and we look forward to a successful year. And I'm going to introduce the Chief of the Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control, Chief Mike Morgan.
Thank you, Stan and Governor Polis. My name is Mike Morgan. It's my honor and pleasure to serve as the Director of the Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control in the Colorado Department of Public Safety. As Governor Polis and Director Hilke have said, we are facing a very challenging fire year where our resources will be tested across not only Colorado but across the West. So collaboration, teamwork at our partner level, and I can't stress enough to what again that Governor Polis and Director Hilke said, but what you do as citizens, the people that live, work, and play in Colorado, to please do your part to reduce the amount of ignitions that we face. Statistically, ballpark numbers, we often think of lightning as being the major cause of wildfires, and it's not. It's typically about 7%. Typically what we see is about 90% of fires are caused by some human action or inaction. A maintenance issue on a vehicle, driving through grass with a hot catalytic converter, etc. Those are the things that we have to be mindful of when we face fire seasons like this. I also can't stress enough to what Director Hilke said, to our local firefighters and all of our partners, thank you for the work that you do. And it's going to be a challenging year, and you stay safe out there. Our mission, priority-wise, will always be firefighter and community first, the safety of our firefighters, the safety of our communities. Secondly, incident stabilization. We don't want fires, we want to stabilize fires as quickly as we can, especially under these conditions. Third would be, firefighter and community safety, property conservation, economic values at risk, special values at risk, and then we've heard the term of using resource benefit fires. We know fire is one of the tools that helps us get out of the dilemma we're in, but when we have conditions like we do this year, there will not be, that we can see in the foreseeable future, fires that we're managing for resource benefit. Even if we were to get some things happen in our forecast where we got more rain than we anticipate and moisture, we know the rest of the country, those resources that we share with all of the states in the West, those resources are going to be challenged, and we're not going to have the resources to commit to resource benefit this year, at this point in time anyway, and we want to stay very vigilant with what Director Hilke said, with early detection through our partnerships with the National Guard, cameras that we're partnering with our utility providers, the multi-mission aircraft, those things, rapid decision making, and intelligence products to prioritize resources as they're deployed across the state, so we can make those decisions about the appropriate management actions and what resources go where, because we know it's going to be a challenging year. We know that, as has been said, 3 of the largest fires in Colorado's history occurred in 2020. Last year, the Lee Fire in Rio Blanco County became the 5th largest fire in the state of Colorado. So, we continue to face these challenges year after year, and this year we've had what I will call a dismal snowpack year, and where we anticipate about 95% of the state being in some level of drought for the months June and July. That most of those areas are extremely challenged. We haven't had enough rain, and we haven't had enough snow, and it's going to be a challenging year for us. As been mentioned, we've talked about the preparedness plan. I've talked about early detection, and that most of our strategies this year are going to be around rapid, aggressive initial attack to keep fires from getting established. It's important to note that even on a normal year, an average year in Colorado, we will have between 6,000 and 7,000 wildfires. So again, when I say be sure and thank those folks from the local government level and those firefighters that are out there every day, we catch most of those and keep them from becoming large and catastrophic. Under the conditions we have right now, we anticipate some significant challenges with that, and we appreciate the Governor and the General Assembly's support to what he described as making Colorado as prepared as we possibly can, and building those resource capacity and depth over the last decade. As the Governor mentioned, and some of these assets are here today, and some of the partnerships, we have our hand crew, we have 6 crews, hand crews or modules across the state. We have engines across the state. We have folks representing for technical support. We lean very hard into what we call an enhanced state assistance program to provide additional resources, including hand crews, engines, aviation assets, to provide rapid attack to unwanted fire. We do that in a very unique way in Colorado, where we have a mutual aid agreement with all of our federal and local partners that we send the closest available resource regardless of where the fire is occurring or regardless of whose resource that is. So we will send, the closest, whether it's a BLM, U.S. Forest Service helicopter, aircraft, or engine in support of, Chief White in Grand County, regardless, just to get there and make sure we get the right operational decisions made to make sure we keep as many of these fires becoming large established events that destroy communities, economies, etc. So We have two Type 2 helicopters in our fleet. It's talked about. One of those we staff 9 months out of the year. One of them is 4 months out of the year in the core fire season, if there is such a thing, as Director Hilke mentioned. We have two Type 1 helicopters. That's the Firehawks. One of those is out there on display. We have the Pilatus PC-12, which is the civilian version of a U-28, if you're familiar with that, which is a Air Force U-28, which is a military aircraft we've modified for early detection, and then we take all of those products into our what we've funded. Governor Polis has supported, and the General Assembly is funded with an intelligence center. They're providing products and decision-making tools to incident commanders and first arriving fire officers in 30 minutes or less, regardless of land ownership in the state of Colorado, which I've had the benefit to travel to many of the states in the West. Some very unique capabilities and capacity that I can be more proud to be a part of with the Division of Fire Prevention and Control in partnership with our other agencies. The last couple things that I want to hit again, and I'm going to come back. You're going to be probably tired of hearing this before this fire year is over, right? Fire's a problem for all of us. It doesn't matter where you live in the state of Colorado in the western United States. Fire is a problem. If you have a water faucet in your house, this is your problem. This is your challenge, right? We all have to take this serious. The billions of dollars we lose every year in losses to wildfire, obviously hail, hurricanes, all those things are now impacting insurability and everything else. And while we don't want to think that these things are impacting everybody to that degree, the reality of it is that is impacting each and every one of us, and we need you to do your part. Our focus has been and will continue to maintain, we'll work on what we call the cohesive wildfire strategy. Talks about healthy forests, including fuels management, which Director McCombs will speak to. Resilient communities, including hardened homes, which is the Wildfire Resiliency Code. Carrie's in the back of the room if you have questions about that. And safe and effective fire response, which is what we're talking about today. And I don't want the safe and effective response to shadow the importance of the only path to success is the cohesive strategy. And you doing your part to protect your home, protect your community, prevent fires from starting, and in the form of fuels treatments, resiliency of your own home, in any place you can, that's what's going to make the difference in the short term and the long haul for the future of fire in Colorado and across our West. So we're asking for all of you that live, work, and play in Colorado to do your part to help reduce the risk to your communities and our fine brothers and sisters in the firefighting community to keep them safe. So with that, I thank you for your time today, and I would like to turn it over to Director Matt McCombs with the Colorado State Forest Service.
Thanks, Chief Morgan. Good morning. I'm Matt McCombs. I'm the Director of the Colorado State Forest Service, and if you're a resident of our fair state, I have the pleasure of serving as your state forester. The Colorado State Forest Service is the lead state forestry agency. In partnership with organizations all across Colorado, we are your foresters. And one of our primary duties is to help Coloradans reduce wildfire risk to their lives, their homes, and properties, as well as their communities. Ultimately, Coloradans know, we all understand, we have to learn to live with wildland fire, especially if they live in the wildland urban interface where over half of Coloradans reside. As we've heard today, weather and fuel conditions in Colorado are very challenging, and now before the fire is the time to prepare. Coloradans must take actions to reduce their fire risk. And luckily, and you'll hear me repeat this a few times, we know mitigation works. That's the good news. We've seen numerous examples over the years of structures and neighborhoods protected by firefighters, thanks in part to the work done prior to the fire, to harden homes, to create defensible space, and to reduce fuels around homes and communities that influence the fire's behavior and aids in firefighting efforts. The governor talked about those fires you don't hear about, and I'd like to use that as an opportunity to share about a fire that you didn't hear about for good reason. In February 27 of this year, wildfire started in the open space adjacent to the Gold Creek subdivision in Elizabeth. Thankfully, the residents of that neighborhood had worked with the Elizabeth Fire Protection District. the Colorado State Forest Service and other partners to reduce fuels in this open space, and with the help from a state-funded grant and other resources from the community, when that wildfire reached the treatment boundary, the flames dropped to the ground, and firefighters were quickly and safely able to contain the fire before it reached homes. This is an example, a critical example of which we have many across Colorado that don't make the news but have huge impacts by reducing the prevalence and the impacts of large fire. It shows that local, state, and federal investments in mitigation that make a difference. All sectors working together, we got a fighting chance as it relates to that fire problem that Chief Morgan just described. This year alone, the state of Colorado has awarded over $15.4 million in state funding to communities like the Gold Creek HOA to reduce their wildfire risk and to protect lives, homes, businesses, and most critically, the natural resources we depend on, in particular, the clean and abundant water here in Colorado that we cherish and certainly has a national significance as well. To date, the Polis administration has invested over $165 million in forest and wildfire resiliency. And these are what's slowly making a difference. We can see Coloradans from the parcel scale all the way to our largest landowner, our federal partners in the public land agencies. Over time, in the aggregate, we're making a difference because mitigation works. And in particular, I'd also talk a little bit about after the fire. State and federal investments have allowed the Colorado State Forest Service to renovate our nursery in Fort Collins. And I'm pleased to say that that construction is progressing well, and we're on track to plant our first crop of conservation species later this May. And they'll be ready just in time in the fall as we think about what type of recovery might be necessary. The architecture of recovery is just as important of the architecture of mitigation. In the end, we can't let our guard down. Large destructive wildfire can happen at any time, especially during high winds. Impacts to forests from the current outbreak of mountain pine beetles on the Front Range, as well as the legacy of mountain pine beetle impact that impacts state or components of our state all across the state of Colorado, will over time further complicate this already dynamic high-risk environment. We appreciate the governor's leadership in bringing together the Ponderosa Mountain Pine Beetle Task Force to bring all of us together in this no daylight policy, which, by the way, that is my mononic device, which I'm so glad to know that so many of my colleagues have adapted. It shows that we try to stand together as one and come forward and engage in these problems in a way that allows us all working together. We've got a fighting chance. In the end, together we can live wildfire ready and work diligently to prepare our homes and communities for wildfire. And I look forward to continue to see Coloradans across the state continue to stand up, do their part, and not just reducing the risk to their communities, but reducing the potential that they themselves might be the source of that next unwanted ignition. Thank you. I'll turn it back, I think, to the governor.
Great. We'll take questions.
Is there any mitigation burns? I mean that the citizens should report any smoke they see?
It's always important to report any smoke you see, of course. Even if it's a legal burn, it would be great to let the authorities know that you're seeing smoke because early intel is so important, and generally the local fire district will know if it's supposed to be occurring or not. So absolutely report any smoke or fire activity that you see as soon as you see it.
Governor, and this might be for Director Hopi. In an average year, we're looking at 6,000 to 7,000 fires. How many fires are we anticipating in a challenging fire year?
Chief Morgan.
Thanks, Governor, and thank you for the question. An average year, 6,000 to 7,000, usually around 250,000 acres burned. I don't have a scientific answer to get you for a bad year, because that's again what we're really trying to stress, that we need to do our part to stop because the fuel conditions. We need to do our part to stop the ignitions. That means making sure that your campfires are out, that where you're smoking, where you're fireworks. Let the professionals do the fireworks this year. Do everything you can to give these folks that are on the front line a couple extra days off. And I think that is a question. I love the question, and I think it's a question that needs to be redirected to the 6 million people that live in the state of Colorado. Please give us the opportunity. We know we're going to have 6,000 to 7,000. It starts as a minimum. Give us the opportunity to maintain those without creating additional workload for us.
But it's safe to say more than the average.
I would say yes. It's very safe to say that that would be more. I mean, obviously, wet years would be, I say the average of 6,000 to 7,000. You know, on a very moist year, we're probably say in the 5,000 range. Where in the higher years we're at 8,000 to 9,000. But it comes to 6,000 to 7,000 because I think a lot of our folks across the country or across the state think that, oh, the only wildfires we really have are the Elk Fire, the Marshall Fire, or the Lee Fire. You know, that's not the case. These folks are out there working hard every single day, and everything you can do to help support them in their efforts is greatly appreciated.
And those small fires are become big fires, so that's why it's important to hit them early. Next question? Yes.
To what extent can firearms expect federal assistance this fire season, considering recent denials of federal disaster?
Well, the federal disaster assistance is after the fact. We obviously, when there are life at stake and property at stake, we direct the resources that we need to. We had a good discussion with our federal partners here in the back. The U.S. Forest Service is here. The U.S. Bureau of Land Management is here, as well as the new entity, the U.S. Wildland Fire Service, right? Yeah, there you go. So they're the new kids on the block. So we have a close working relationship with all of our federal partners. Generally, when you're talking major fire events, they span all kinds of land. Federal, public county land, private land, sometimes tribal land. And we have to bring to the table really all of those folks to make sure that we have a immediate response on the ground. So we had a good discussion with our federal partners as part of this briefing. They are very much part of the wildfire preparedness plan that we're presenting here today. Next.
The Trump administration doesn't deny claims afterwards. If they won't come in after the fact and help other communities that are affected by fire, how does that change the state's calculus in terms of spending money and resources? Like, do we have enough money given our budget situation? Is there a chance of running out? Can we spend less because we're not going to get federal reimbursement?
Yeah, I would say it just makes the recovery a lot harder, more difficult and slower for the communities that are directly affected by fires. We are always going to step up and do what we need to do to protect people's property and lives. And we hope that that federal partnership comes back with disasters that we've counted on for years, that piece of the federal partnership. And if that's going away, as it seems to be with the denial not just of Colorado's but a number of disaster declarations, that would fundamentally change the nature of the federal relationship with the states, and it would hurt fire preparedness and recovery across all 50 states. Yes.
Good morning. I understand that many water districts around the state already put restrictions in place. I'm wondering what your conversation has been with those water districts in terms of putting restrictions in place.
Sure. So I would just also point out that's different. It might be adjacent to wildlife preparedness, but that's more dealing with the water situation on the ground. Each basin has thoughtful discussions about that, about the status and health of their aquifer, where they are. Those are all bottom-up, grassroots-driven, because nobody has more at stake about the health of a particular watershed or aquifer than the users of that watershed or aquifer. Certainly the state is happy to play a supportive role in providing the science and data that can help inform that decision-making. Yes?
Chief Morgan, you mentioned that some of the most destructive and largest fires have happened in the last 5 years or so. Can you speak to some of the factors that are allowing these fires to get to these sizes and destructive tendencies?
I think there's a lot of factors, right? It's not just one. I mean, if you take and you look at the fire behavior, if you will, the fire behavior 101, as we look at fuels, we look at topography, and we look at weather. I mean, those are the three primary driving factors. Obviously, Colorado is what Colorado is from a mountainous perspective, and obviously fire travels up faster, up hills, but then you take in the complications of longer fire seasons, higher temperatures, drought conditions, and beetle kill pine, both ponderosa and lodgepole. The overall health of the vegetation because it's so strained, because of lack of moisture, all of those things, all of those are compounding factors that are driving these conditions that we used to think were unprecedented or anomalies, and the reality of it is it's happening every year. It's not unprecedented. It is our new normal. And so again, I think while we've studied from a science piece and from a fire behavior piece, all those different things, I can't stress enough that the big thing that there's certain things we can't control. Hurricanes, we can't control floods. We can control our destiny when it comes to wildfire, and it starts at that individual level to reduce that ignition because some of the geography, the fuels conditions, and the weather are kind of beyond our control, and that's where the human factor has to come in to do our part.
Well, I do have a high degree of confidence that Colorado will not experience a hurricane this season, so I can go ahead and put me on the record on that. Yes.
This could be for anyone, but and I know this is a statewide issue. Can you talk a little bit more about maybe particular parts of the state that have different risks
Yeah.
than other states, other parts?
In this wildlife forecast, there's an elevated risk in western Colorado and the Front Range, and I would also highlight the drought is particularly severe in northwest Colorado. So the entire state should be vigilant, but in terms of where we're looking at activity, western Colorado, the Front Range, and particular drought situations in northwest Colorado. Yes?
Yes, absolutely. I was wondering what the status of the state wildfire inmate privacy is.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I'm wondering what the status of the state wildfire inmate privacy.
Oh, yeah, we have a great update on that. Who wants to give the inmate part? Yes, yeah.
And then also what the role inmate wildland firefighters will be playing with resources.
Great.
Yeah, Dan Gibbs, DNR Director. We currently have one about 20-person hand crew for the SWIFT team. We have them scheduled this summer already to work on 5 specific projects around the state to do fire mitigation. They will also be trained to be red card certified, so on a moment's notice they could be redeployed to fight a fire as well.
Yes. No, we always appreciate moisture, but the weather on a particular day or 2-day or 3-day period doesn't affect the fire outlook in a significant way. And of course, what matters is the overall trend. So, I mean, you have a period of moisture, things grow. If it's followed by a period of drought, you have fuel. So it all kind of fits together, but it can't really be looked at on a day-to-day basis. It needs to be looked at on a kind of monthly basis.
Given that the entire West is in drought, how are you going to make the decision on whether to send assets and teams to other states, given that we have such a need back home?
Yeah, and I think that's even a bigger factor in deploying the federal resources as they decide where to deploy them. The resources that we own and operate, while we expect that we will need them here and deploy them here, clearly we will look at anything on a case-to-case basis if there are major events in New Mexico or Arizona or Utah. But again, the advantage of being able to control the resources is we want to be able to have rapid response here, and we don't want to sacrifice that. Yes?
This same professor last year, we spent a lot of time talking about federal staffing, one part of the resource, I know not
Yeah.
the only. Can anyone quantify where that stands, or how that would help Colorado this year? And then second, are you confident that's enough?
So we had and continue to have to a certain degree a lot of uncertainty about federal staffing. I don't know if our federal partners, BLM, Ag, want to address that, as well as the new agency might want to address at least what they're hearing about kind of federal resources that you guys have. Do our federal partners want to address that?
I'm Paul Hone. I'm the Geographic Area Fire Chief for the U.S. Wildland Fire Service, which is it's an entity that was put together taking wildland firefighters from the Department of Interior bureaus and putting them into one fire service. So that's the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Bureau of Land Management, National Park Service, and U.S. Wildland Fire Service, or U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Our staffing levels are the same as they were last year, and I know that some federal agencies went through some deferred resignation programs. There were some positions that were not allowed to be rehired over the last couple of years. That is not applied to firefighters and fire support personnel. And so we have the same amount of staffing that we had in those legacy bureaus last year and the prior year with the similar budgets as well. And so we've had very good support, and I think recognition that wildland fire just needs staff to be successful. I don't know if U.S. Forest Service
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. Allison Richards, Geographic Area Fire Director for the Rocky Mountain area. The Forest Service is poised to have the same response that we've had in years past at the national level, clear down to the local entities. So we have the same resources that we had last year. Also take a moment to just talk about some of the training we're doing for a non-primary fire. We're doing everything that we can to get folks red card qualified across the entire spectrum, from operations to incident support. So we are doing everything that we can to be poised here at the regional level as well as nationally. So thank you.
I have a follow-up for both of you. You guys are saying at the same staffing levels as before. Is that the same number of positions, or is, like, are you filling all of those positions?
So for the Forest Service, we've been very actively filling all of our vacant positions. So we've had multiple hiring events throughout the year. And so every opportunity we've had to fill those critical gaps, we've done so. And then we are also bringing on the same number of temporary seasonal employees in fire that we've traditionally done.
Same for the Department of Interior. And that amounts to about 7,100 red-carded employees department-wide.
And I would add, another one of the kind of on again, off again ones we've been following closely is AmeriCorps, and that's the Conservation Corps doing some of the mitigation work. That is currently funded, but there were times when I think we were worried about that, or it had been cut off, and that we're watching that again, because those are the crews, 13 crews?
Yeah.
13 crews,
Projects.
13 different projects, generally taking down fuel and trees near population centers that are out there doing that work, probably starting pretty shortly or perhaps already. Is that, Dan, do you have any more information on that?
Yeah, and I'll just add, for comparing 2025 Youth Corps, they had 6.5 million from AmeriCorps and 530 members. 2006, they had 4.2 million funding, so that's a 35% decrease from AmeriCorps, and 360 members. So we've seen a change in terms of funding and the amount of folks for conservation corps.
And that's 25 to 26.
Yeah, 25 to
Yeah,
26.
go ahead, Chief.
I wanted to follow up on some of the questions about staffing. As we've heard from our partners at U.S. Wildland Fire Service and U.S. Forest Service, staffing numbers remain the same, and they bring a tremendous amount of assets and expertise to the table. But to put it all into perspective, I think, in the geographic area, there's about 1,500, that's across basically 5 states, 1,500 federal wildland firefighters. The state of Colorado and our local government brings about 12,000 firefighters in the state of Colorado alone. It's an interagency system that will be stretched thin, no doubt about it, and we just have to rely on the true partnerships and the collaboration that take place from that local fire department all the way up to our through the state and our federal partners. That without all of us chipping in, and our problems getting worse, and we have to continue. Maybe this is my recruitment thing. For those of you that have time, go help your local community.
Yes.
Governor, with the impressive array of people up here, but I can't help but notice who's not here, granted a non-governmental entity, but the insurance industry. And there is now legislation to give people more credit for mitigation efforts. But
Yeah.
we have come some distance with the insurance industry, but
Yeah.
it seems a ways to go to truly get to an area where people feel that they're getting appropriate credit for what they're doing in their home.
Yeah, and so they're not here because this is more of an official function, the Wildlife Preparedness Plan. This is a multi-agency task force. We separately had an announcement with Commissioner Conway a few days ago talking about homeowners insurance. We talked a lot about fire in that, and that is largely through the insurance commissioner, obviously in consultation with some of the folks here. But the work that we are doing in the insurance sector is to reduce homeowners insurance. The goal is $800 per home average by the end of next year. And there's a whole number of tactics that we are pursuing to achieve that, including efforts to reduce hail damage, which is one of the major drivers. And I think here you're focused more on the fire piece. And around fire, there's really 2 major pieces working with insurance. One is, how do we connect, and using legislation we already have, how do we make sure that through the authority of the Officer of Insurance Commissioner, and Mike Conway has a plan to do this, make sure that people get credit for the home level mitigation, risk level mitigation that they do. So you take down trees next to your home, you should see the benefit of that on your homeowner's insurance. Likewise, if you're failing to do that work, you would see elevated rates. Secondly, that occurs at a community level. And sometimes that's through a formal mechanism like an HOA, where it might be an HOA for an entire subdevelopment that needs to do community mitigation, meaning the trees and fuel and fire risk near the subdevelopment needs to be taken down for a barrier of whatever it might be, 30 feet, 50 feet. And then that community, which buys its homeowners insurance together through the HOA, would see the benefits of that. So that work is underway. Happy to connect you as well with Insurance Commissioner Mike Conway to update you on that. Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could go through the lineup of the aviation resources available to fight these fires.
Yeah.
And then the role of the airports around the state that are preparing to help support those efforts.
The goal of these, say that again?
The role of the airports.
Yeah, the airport. So we have 2 state-owned multi-mission aircraft. They are for surveillance, intelligence, real-time mapping. We have a large air tanker exclusive use contract, 120 days a year. It's based in Colorado Springs. It can also be moved to other bases for deployment. We have exclusive use of 2 high-performance single-engine air tankers that are capable of delivering 800 gallons of fire retardant or suppression. We have 1 base at the Northern Colorado Regional Airport, and that's available when needed as well. We also have contract for additional Scooper aircraft. We have fire suppression modules, 6 exclusively, each with 7 to 10 firefighters. We have 7 fully staffed engines with 4 firefighters each. We have 2 high-performance Type 2 helicopters with fully trained helitack crews staffed by firefighters. They are also available when needed to staff with non-fire missions, and they have done that, search and rescue and other missions. It's very helpful to have this aircraft. 1 is based right here. 1 is based in Canyon City, but again, we have the capability to base them at other airports across the state. We own 2 Type 1 helicopters. These are the Firehawks that you hear about that we purchased in the last few years. Great capabilities to assist and support local jurisdictions year-round. Again, both have fully trained helitack crews, DFPC firefighters. 1 is here in Broomfield, 1 is in Montrose. That's where they're based. They can also be rebased if needed. Each one is twin engines and a 1,000-gallon capacity water tank, supporting wildfire operations with water and suppressants and supplies. They can help with evacs as needed and other things as well. So that's an overview of the equipment that we have either exclusively leased or owned, as well as where it's located. We do have a number of other airports around the state that are equipped to house them on a short-term basis. So for their maintenance and regular needs, we have them based, here of course is a great example, but they can operate missions for a period of days or weeks out of a number of different sites across the state. Yes?
Has the Marshall Fire caused a reassessment of the threat to more urbanized areas? And if so, how was that seen?
Well, I mean, we care about all areas in the state. This was the most destructive fire in the history of the state of Colorado. And, the rapid response that's needed. That was a confluence of events. It was very difficult because, if you recall, it was all over a 2 or 3 day period. Winds were so strong we couldn't fly a thing. No matter what your aerial assets were, you could not deploy them in that situation. You had very dry conditions right near a major subdevelopment with catastrophic results. I'm very proud of the evacuation efforts, minimizing loss of life, and the going in and protecting people and successfully evacuating. But we need to be ready anywhere and everywhere, and that includes, of course, the focus on the urban wildland interface, population centers, as well as preventing true wildland fires from spreading to areas where they can cause severe damage to property or to people's homes and lives. Yes?
What response have you seen from local leaders as the state implements the resiliency code?
We've seen great response. I was talking to Commissioner Dahlkemper about it earlier. The other piece we want to see is, again, the tie-in to insurance and reduce rates. But communities across the state, especially smaller communities, don't always have the expertise and appreciate the state assistance. Working with partners like Jeffco, Larimer, Boulder has been great to kind of how we can make sure to improve the bar on when people are building in the wildland urban interface, how we do it in a way that reduces their own risk, but also the risk to the rest of us from fires that could spread. Yes?
So I understand that there's a huge collaborative effort between the different agencies happening behind the scenes. I can't help but think about burnout from the first responders. I know there's been a lot of talk about resources being spread thin. So I'm wondering if there's anything being involved in training for the men and women that are responding to these fires.
Yeah, I'll let Chief Morgan reply. I would just add that last year I issued an executive order that allows additional leave time for state employees that are also volunteer firefighters. I encourage our private sector employers to do the same. Some have done so. We want to make sure we support our volunteer firefighters and when they step up, and whether it's relieving a professional crew or whether it's engaging on the front lines as needed. Chief Morgan, do you want to talk about some of the other efforts?
Thanks, Governor. We're obviously very concerned about the health and well-being of our firefighters across, local, state, and federal levels. Undoubtedly, they're going to be strained this year, and they're going to be worked very, very hard, spending long amounts of time away from friends and family and the things that really matter and are important to them. We have things in place. I think we're better prepared, if you will, as an industry, right? With health, wellness, well-being, the ability to have resources. We have, mental health programs and different, employee assistance programs that have been put in place over the last decade to help those folks. And I guess maybe to your point, right? Two things I guess I want to close it out with. One is I will stress again the importance of stopping every ignition we can stop. That's one less stressed out, overworked firefighter at whatever level. And secondly, to our firefighters in Colorado and across the United States of America, is we are here for you. We're here to support you. If you need help, do not hesitate to reach out to any one of us, because we're here to support you, and we appreciate what you do, and you put your life on the line every day, and we appreciate that, and know that this country supports you in the work that you do, and we're here to, give us a shout if there's something we can do in support.
Those things and resources that you're mentioning, are those new this year?
No, ma'am, they are not new. There's, I will say that as an industry, I would say that our military, our law enforcement, our fire communities, our public safety agencies, historically have done a poor job at taking care of the people that do this work on a day-to-day basis. We know statistically, and these are terrible numbers to throw out, but we know that substance abuse, divorce, violence, those types of things are highest in these high stress, high risk positions. We've known that for years, and I would say in the last decade, we finally, again, through the support of Governor Polis and the General Assembly, we now have a mental health, help capacity for firefighters, regardless of organization, to reach out to in the state of Colorado, to support them personally, to get them through the hard times that every one of those folks go through. So those resources are there. I could let Chief White or others speak to it, but I think the advanced, enhanced, employee assistance programs, peer support teams, most organizations have peer support teams to support, and that's where it's really important that people understand the work that we do in this business, are talking to somebody who understands that. And so those peer support teams are throughout the state and throughout the West. Chaplains programs, financial support, mental health, all these programs are out there. We've got a long ways to go, but those resources are there. It just means that it's okay to call when you need that help.
All right, we just have a couple more. Who has not asked one yet? Like first time folks first. Is there anybody who's not successfully asked one yet? Okay, if so, we'll go to second time for a couple more. Did you have a follow-up?
Yeah.
And then I think
I'll...
I'll...
foothills communities, there remain burn piles, many of which were cured, sitting and waiting. This was a lousy year to burn them, of course. It was really difficult. But it takes over 60 pages of paperwork to burn a burn pile for firefighters. Homeowners have a much simpler process. Is it time to scale down the paperwork? And as one firefighter remarked to me, said they understand that fires cause pollution, right? Because you can't burn piles on days that are higher pollution days. These need to be burned. The point was, fires cause pollution. We've got to burn
we'd be very open to that. I'd like to figure out what these 60 pages are. That sounds like an awful lot of paperwork. So we'll get to the bottom of that. But obviously, people need to know what's occurring where, and folks need to be aware of what's going on. But when folks are engaged in constructive mitigation, we certainly want to make it easier. Do you think else we just said?
I'll say some to that. Thanks, Governor. Thanks for that question, Alan. Anytime we can reduce the bureaucracy of state government, I think that's a good thing, right? And we certainly endeavor to want to do that as well. I think one of the challenges here, and it becomes a vexing challenge, is, do we turn that over to more local level or to even homeowner level? And one of the real concerns that we have there is that, these things get away from professional firefighters sometimes. We don't want anything to get away in a way that ends up causing a tragedy. And so, trying to find that right sweet spot about reducing the bureaucracy of it so that it can happen efficiently and effectively is because we want to see those piles gone as well. But at the same time, making sure that there's resources on site to deal with it when it goes bad is critically important for us as well. And we continue to look at that ourselves. And there's not an easy solution there, I can tell you that. We talk a lot about it, and we continue to try to work towards finding that sweet spot. Thanks.
Great. And who else? I think I saw. Final. Go ahead. Final question.
Yes, I just love to hear how confident are you that the resources available are enough to address this critical fire?
Well, it's not about resources being enough. It's about having more ability to prevent small fires from becoming large. We have that. We talked about the increase in the number of fire events that are likely. It makes a big difference whether there's 4,000 or whether there's 8,000 in a given year. This year it looks like it could be closer to 8,000. But the ability to hit them early prevents small fires from becoming large. And of course, also allows around the edges protection of life and property from some of those larger fires that do get out of control. So we are thrilled that we've increased these resources. The state's come a long way over the last 8 years. We can all feel safer because of where we are today. But at the same time, risk has also increased. Particularly this year in a drought year, we're obviously worried about major fire events quickly eclipsing the own resources we have, and if so, we would tap into the national resources. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.